life on earth is not the end. There's more to life than this earthly experience. There's another realm. And people return from that realm telling us that they experienced love and joy and peace and beauty and connection and many other things. And that knowledge and love were unlimited in this other realm. They tell us that's our home. They say after they come back, they can't wait to go home, meaning this earth isn't their home, but their home is in that spiritual realm.
I'm pleased to have Dick Dingus with me today. And Dick had a spiritually transformative experience when he was young in high school, which transformed the rest of his life. He has been in service to IANS for many years, and he has come to share some wisdom and knowledge that he's learned about near-death experiences and his spiritually transformative experience as well. Dick, thank you so much for being my guest. I'm really excited to speak with you today.
Thank you very much. This is a great opportunity for me to share what I have learned from my study of near-death experiences. I'm part of Virginia Beach Friends of IANS, which is the International Association for Near-Death Studies. There are some 60 chapters around the world, and mine is in Virginia Beach. Our mission and the mission of IANS is to make known what can be learned from a study of near-death experiences. And that's what I'd like to share with you today. And I'd also like to share my spiritually transformative experience. I want to share it because it's transformational. All this information helps people and gives them energy to change. And it's not only the people who have had such experiences who are changed, but also those who hear their stories. So it's important for everybody to tell their story. And I always encourage people who have had a transformational experience to tell it. I invite them to come to my house and tell it to a larger audience on Tuesday or Thursday evening. And Tia was one of the people who shared it at my house. I'm not a near-death experiencer, but I've studied near-death experience for like 30 years. And I've met probably hundreds of near-death experiences and heard their stories. Instead, I had a spiritually transformative experience when I was in high school, and that propelled me into the ministry. I'd like to tell all about that and what I learned from near-death experience today. The first thing we need to understand from a study of near-death experience is that life on earth is not the end. There's more to life than this earthly experience. There's another realm. And people return from that realm telling us that they experienced love and joy and peace and beauty and connection and many other things. And that knowledge and love were unlimited in this other realm. They tell us that's our home. They say after they come back, they can't wait to go home, meaning this earth isn't their home, but their home is in that spiritual realm. Why then would we want to come here if home is such a beautiful place? Well, we get bored there. It's unconditional love all the time. Everything's perfect. There's no problem. So we come to Earth or go to some other realm for excitement, for amusement, for fun, for a learning experience. Now, Earth is a difficult realm. Some people say it's the most difficult realm in the universe, filled with suffering and pain. So why would anyone want to come here? It provides an opportunity for the advancement of our soul at a rapid pace. And it's also an experience. Some people like to go to horror shows in the movie theater, and it's sort of like that. You experience something, it's not real, but you're experiencing it and you're experiencing the thrill of it, but it's not going to last forever. Eventually, you're going to leave that theater and you're going to be just safe. It's the same thing with our experience here on Earth. It's only temporary. But what we gain here for soul growth and for learning lasts forever. So it's worth doing. Souls know that it's worth doing. That's why they come here. One near-death experiencer had a vision of souls preparing to come to Earth, and it was like a train station, and there were people waiting in lines to get on one of the trains so they could come here and have this experience. Another thing that near-death experiences teach us is that we are being monitored. Our experience here is God's experience. Someone has expressed it this way: God lives in, through, and as us. In fact, our experience of here is essential for God to exist. This is the most profound concept I've ever encountered in my study of near-death experience or anything else. And this concept came to me from Sandy Toronto, who had a near-death experience. She explained that when she had a near-death experience, she came to understand that God is the infinite. But God cannot be the infinite unless God is also the finite. And so how can God be both infinite and finite at the same time? God does it through us. We are the completion of that or the resolution of that seeming paradox. God does it through us. And at another level, Sandy said, what we do here affects the evolution of humankind and the expansion of the universe. I've never heard, I'm 79 years old, and I heard this concept last year. I've never in all my years heard a concept so complex and profound as that. So each of us is significant. Each of us is an essential part of the whole, a piece of the puzzle. The whole will not be complete until each one of us completes our part. That's how Nancy Clark worded it from what she learned in her near-death-like experience. The next thing I learned that I want to share about near-death experience is that we have help. Beings who have been through this are standing by, ready to guide us, to teach us, to heal us upon request. But we have to ask. People don't often ask. They don't think that help is possible. We may not feel that we have angels or helpers, and so we feel alone, but we can ask and get help. One young woman was on drugs. She was homeless. She was hitchhiking. She put out her thumb and a trucker stopped. She got aboard. She felt sick. She asked if she could lie down in the back of the cab. The driver said she could. She laid in the back of the cab, and she felt like her life was rolling up within her like a window shade. Suddenly, she was in the darkness. She had never experienced this before. She called out, "Mom!" Mom didn't come. She said, "Anybody, help me." Far in the distance, she saw a tiny light zooming towards her. The light came to her and stood next to her. It was a man. She said, "Who are you?" He said, "I'm Jesus, the Christ." She said, "Why did you let those terrible things happen to me when I was younger?" He said, "I gave everybody free will." He said, "Why didn't you come and help me?" He said, "You never asked." But at that moment, in her distress, she asked, and Jesus came and helped her. It reminds me of the verses in Hebrews chapter 4 about Jesus, having passed through this realm, is available to give help to those who call on him. In another place, he said, "Ask and you shall receive." So I want everybody to know you can ask and your words are heard and helpers are ready to come to your aid. There's a subtle connection between earth and the heavenly realms, and most people are unaware of it. But near-death experiencers become more aware of it. Their connection is opened. There's a word in the Bible called the veil, and it's commonly used in new spirituality studies. The veil is that barrier that separates this earthly realm from the spiritual realm. And so we can't see through it or beyond it most often. However, if you have had a near-death experience, you have gone through the veil, and that penetration, that hole remains open for you. You go through it and you come back, and that provides access for spiritual contact or communications. Plus, when you come back, you bring back some of the energy from the spiritual realm, and that transforms your life. One of our speakers many years ago was named Blue Boy, and he was involved in a truck accident. And during that truck accident, he left his body and he went to a barrier. And he says his leg went through the barrier, only his leg, but he pulled it back and was resuscitated at the scene of the accident. But just simply having his leg through the veil and that opening that was made for him enabled him to experience the subtle energies of the spiritual realm. His life was changed after that. Near-death experiencers commonly experience infinite knowledge and infinite love when they go through the barrier, and they come back and they're changed by that knowledge. They may not remember, and likely will not remember everything they knew, but they will know that and remember that at one time it was all clear to them how everything works, both in the material realm and in the spiritual realm. Bill Taylor was the person who shared this knowledge with me first, and he saw God. He said he saw God as a brilliant ball of light, and he described God and the love and the knowledge that he had in that spiritual realm. But coming back, he forgot all that he learned, but he knew that at one time he knew it, and he was changed by the experience. Typically, near-death experiencers are changed. They might ignore the experience for some time, but eventually they'll put their attention to it and they'll try to unravel what it means for them and what it means for their life. Many become psychic. They can see energy. They gain the ability to heal. Most commonly, they are reorientated away from the values of this earthly life, from power and wealth and fame. Instead, they seek to be helpful, to extend love. It's God is love. We're the children of God, and our natural heritage and the fulfillment of our life is to express the love that is at the core of our being that connects us with God. So they develop gifts for use in helping others. Rebecca Castle had a near-death-like experience, and that's what happened to her. She developed the gifts of being a healer and a channeler for angels. She was our speaker at Strangers No More last evening, and she gave a wonderful presentation. She delivered messages from the angels to our group, and I have a recording of it, and she said I could share it with people. I encourage everyone who has had a transformational experience to tell the story, because hearers will be changed. And our goal, our realistic goal, is to change the world. And every time we tell the story, somebody's going to hear it and they're going to be changed. I've been active in Virginia Beach Friends of Ions for about 20 years. Cheryl Birch started it about 21 years ago. And when she left Virginia Beach, she allowed me to take over the leadership. And I have a board of people who help me. Jeff Jones is my primary helper, but Lloyd Kramer and Neil Helm and Summer Hope are also on the board. And together we sponsor speakers every month. You could see our speakers by going to our website. It's www.vbiands.com. And our speakers are on YouTube. I started my spiritual journey in high school. I had what's called a spiritually transformative experience. I grew up feeling rather lonely. I did not have good peer relationships, and I didn't feel close to my family. And so I was longing for closeness. I made it through up into 10th grade, okay. Uh, but in 10th grade, an upperclassman named Russ Becker uh, came to me. I didn't know him, and he gave me a tract and asked me if I wanted to go to heaven in this tract. It was quite simple. And he invited me to ask Jesus into my life. And I said, okay, I'll do that. And that made a big transformation for me. It wasn't long after that I became part of Youth for Christ in my local high school, MacArthur High School in West Hollywood, Florida. And I enjoyed loving relationships with my peers, with their parents. I became involved with church congregations, especially Christian Missionary Alliance in West Hollywood, Florida. And I experienced such joy. I was at a Youth for Christ rally one night. I was sitting alone. Jerry Burleson was singing a song on the stage. He was the leader of our group. And all of a sudden, I felt this overwhelming joy fill my whole life. I couldn't contain it. For months after that, it was like I was walking on air. I had read the Bible in the past, but it didn't make any sense to me. Then all of a sudden, the Bible did make sense. And I was having wonderful, friendly relationships with peers who were supportive. It was a change in my life. And I said, I want this experience. I want to share it with other people. So I determined that I would get an education and go into the ministry. I followed the leaders of that Youth of Christ group to Nyack Missionary College in Nyack, New York. And then years later, I went to Gordon Conwell Theological Seminary in South Hamilton, Massachusetts. And I became a minister. And I served in the United Church of Christ for 26 years. And during that time, I would try to inform congregations of the transformational power of near-death experience and related fields. But many of them were not interested. In fact, it caused some conflict. And in the end, I decided I have had enough conflict, and I resigned from the pastorate. That was about 18 years ago. After that, I became a hospice chaplain. And as a chaplain, I was able to meaningfully share what I'd learned about near-death experience with my clients and with their families, because they're going through a lot of grief with uncertainty about life and whether there's any continuation of life beyond. So I had lots of stories to tell them, and I felt it was very productive and meaningful for me. I retired from that several years ago. I needed to retire to take care of my grandchildren. My wife had died. She was also a caregiver with me for them. But when she died, that left me alone to take care of them, and I could not sustain a full-time job and take care of my grandchildren at the same time. So I resigned from being a hospice chaplain, and I did things around the house. It wasn't long before I had a dream. In the dream, I was digging a hole, and the hole was the footing for a cross. The cross was leaning up against the side of the garage, and I was going to put that cross in the hole. I interpreted that dream. It was clear to me I was going to start a church. It would be a home model church. It would meet outside as much as possible, and it would provide all the things that the traditional church was not providing. It would provide an opportunity for people to share their gifts and to explore topics like near-death experience that are almost forbidden to share in churches. And so we started a church, home model church. The primary cause for this is to provide an option for large congregations, large buildings with dwindling congregations to have a home after they're no longer able to support their large building. What can they do? Well, here's a model that works. You can meet in someone's home. So we meet twice a week, Tuesday and Thursday evenings. We meet at 6 o'clock for dinner, and then at 7:30 we have a Zoom call. And we welcome anyone who wants to join us. And everybody who joins us has an opportunity to share and to listen to a speaker and then to question the speaker and to make comments. If you would like to connect with me for any of these things, you can contact me at my email, which is Richard A. Dinges, Dinges, at AOL.com. I call my group a spiritual exploration and growth group. We're involved in building community and in healing. So altogether, I feel that I'm doing my part. I'm fitting my piece into the puzzle so that the whole will be complete. And in doing so, I am really happy. I feel energized almost every day. I get up and I say, what am I going to do today? I say, what are God and I going to do together today? And then I just follow my guidance and it works out. During the past 20 years, I've met amazing people and I've heard amazing stories. I'd like to sum it up. What the essential message is. We are to show our true identity as children of God. God is love. This means that as the children of God, we have inherited the essence of God. We have God's spiritual DNA, love, and we can fulfill our mission by extending love. So, as it is written in the Gospels, let your light shine. That's the purpose of life. The best definition of God for Bill Taylor, who had a near-death experience, is the love light. Love is something you can feel. Light is something that you can see. And Bill experienced both of these aspects of God. And many near-death experiencers see God as a brilliant globe of light and feel great love in God's presence. Everything is made out of this love light, is what near-death experiencers tell us. That's what Mary Dioma saw in her near-death experience. She saw light emanating from everything. She said, everything is made out of light, down to the minute particle in the universe. Other near-death experiencers have said the same thing, that everything had a glow to it. According to Edgar Casey, everything is a manifestation of God. Another thing I learned in my near-death experience is that we are all connected. We are all part of the one. Near-death experiencers see filaments of light that connect every soul to the source and connect every soul to every other soul. And energy travels over these filaments of light. That's what Reese Manley saw in his near-death experience. He published 2 books before he died. Another thing I learned from near-death experience is that prayer generates energy. Near-death experiencers can see it. Betty Eady, when she was away from her body, saw the prayers of people who were praying for her while she was dead. Another thing I've learned is that all things are possible with God. You might remember the story of Mary in the Bible, and she was talking with the angel, wondering how she could bear a son when she was a virgin. And the angel said, I think he said the negative, nothing is impossible with God, but on the other side, all things are possible with God. Recently, I went through training as a quantum healing hypnosis technique practitioner. And at the core of that course is the affirmation that nothing is impossible except what you think is impossible. Everything else is possible. Prayer is a creative energy that brings into being things that you may think are impossible. What we intend and think and speak and act combine their energies. We can actually visualize it, and it will eventually manifest on Earth. It will take time because this is a time-space realm, but it's just as effective as thinking and speaking and acting in the spiritual realm. In 1977, PMH Atwater had 3 near-death experiences. And in one of them, she decided she would create a house. She wanted to create a house with columns. And so she had it in her mind, and all of a sudden, the house appeared. And then she said, I'd like to do something more difficult. I'd like to create a tree. And there was the tree. And she went on and she created a whole neighborhood. Jesus walked down the street of that neighborhood, and eventually she dissolved all that she had created, and she had an engagement with Jesus. But the point is, we can create in the same way on earth, only it will take time before it manifests, because this is a space-time realm. Another thing I learned from near-death experience is that we should be positive all the time. We can be loaded down with negativity through our media and through our relationships with people in the world, but we need to keep our vibration high. We can separate from those who have negative vibrations. We can avoid them. We cannot allow the negativity to take hold of us. The studies of Masaru Emoto on the properties of water crystals conveys the very same message, that we need to stay positive and not allow the negative to affect us. We are 70% water, and the messages that he applied to water, whether it was in writing or in speaking, turned up in the crystals that were photographed when they were thawing. And the most beautiful crystals were formed from the words love and gratitude. So those are the words that should fill our lives. Thank you, love, and gratitude. And I took this message to heart, and whenever I sign an email, I always sign it love and gratitude, Dick, because I want to share that message about keeping ourselves positive. Vinnie Tolman, whose videos are on YouTube right now, expressed the same message about being positive. And another thing that he talks about is earth changes. And I'd like that to be part of this message this morning. Years ago, I preached a sermon about earth changes to a local church here in Virginia Beach. And I collected some 44 pages of research. I didn't preach the whole thing because you only have about 30 minutes, but I reduced it. But I still have those 44 pages, and I'd be glad to share them with anybody who's interested to receive it just by giving me an email. The message is from Vinnie Tolman that we're going to go through some turbulence in the next 4 or 5 years. It's called Earth Changes, and this is a natural development of the earth and of humankind. It's already started, and we can see it in the earthquakes and the storms and the fires all around us. But Vinnie Tolman brings it home and says it's already happening and we should be paying attention to it. But the main point here is not to be afraid of this. We are safe. Even if our physical body is destroyed, our soul will live on, and we will be here in another realm, in a new earth, a peaceful earth, a beautiful place. There's a scripture that expresses this well. It's from Psalm 46, verses 1 and 2. God is our refuge and strength, a tested help in troubled times. And so we need not fear, even if the world blows up and the mountains crumble into the sea.
First of all, Dick, I want to thank you for sharing all of your experiences, your wisdom, the things that you've learned from near-death experiences, and your service to others with IANS. I find that a lot of near-death experiencers, they come back with a passion for sharing their message or in some way to have to give in service to others. Do you feel like you were kind of given that same passion or that same calling to give service to others in your spiritually transformative experience in high school?
Yes, I'm happiest when I'm teaching and when I'm helping.
I want to thank you for that and helping to change the world. We talked a little bit about religion and some Bible verses and Jesus and things like that. How does that fit into near death experiences? There's a lot of experiences out there that don't include any religious aspects.
Having a religion doesn't matter. Having any particular religion matters for you if you're in that particular religion. But God is greater than all of that. And God is expressed in everything, in all religions. They all contain teachings, elements, energy from God. People might see Jesus. They might not see Jesus. They might see someone they don't know. They might see Mohammed. They might see the Buddha. That's all valid.
It's all about God and not the religious aspect of it. Is that correct?
Right.
What would you say to skeptics or cynics even who say a near-death experience is the product of a dying brain, lack of oxygen, DMT, anything like that?
Uh, these perspectives have been refuted uh, by major researchers, such as Bruce Grayson, Dr. Bruce Grayson. People can refer to ions to see those documents and those essays. Uh, I myself uh, know that in the past, scientists have asked for proof that can be repeated in the laboratory for them to document and verify truths. But I say there are some subjective truths that we can't deny. What kind of proof do you have for happiness or peace or joy or the feeling of love? There's no there's no proof that can be given in the laboratory for that. But everybody knows that these are true. In the same way, near death experiencers combine with the combined testimony of near death experiencers has a great amount of weight in verifying the truth and the truths that they have expressed. You have millions of people. Not every experience, all experiences are different, but they contain perhaps a dozen similar characteristics. I wrote a paper about this near death experience and what we can learn from it, and it's found at the website of Virginia Beach Friends of Ions under the research button. And that's my response to scientists and to others who want to see an overview of what can be learned from near death experience.
In your work as a hospice chaplain, did you ever have a shared death experience or even an experience where you were with someone who was dying and they were witnessing loved ones as they were dying?
I was present, and I was perhaps the first person to notice that somebody had died when I went into their room in a nursing home. This happened several times. I often prayed at their bedside. I might have felt the vibration of someone's presence while I was there. I wasn't quite aware of what I was experiencing at that time, but I think I was experiencing their presence. I did not feel any communication with a departing soul, but I did have an experience with a woman who was very interesting. She was nonverbal. She was in a nursing home. People thought she was demented and could not communicate. But standing at her bedside, I was able to ask her questions, and she was able to nod with her head, yes and no. And I visited with her several times. And I gathered from her at one time, in one visit, that she had a visit from Jesus. And Jesus told her that she would be coming with him in the near future. And she saw relatives and others that she didn't recognize in the upper corner of her bedroom. And I thought that was an amazing event that she could communicate those things simply by me asking her a question, and she would nod yes or no. And she expressed how she saw others who are waiting for her as she was in the process of transitioning. I had another experience of visiting an older woman who was in hospice care. She was a widow. She had been abused by her late husband. And she said that for a period of weeks, her husband used to come to her and kneel at the side of her bed and ask her for forgiveness. And she ignored him for the longest time. And then finally, she said, "I forgive you." And that was the last time he appeared at the side of her bed. And I have a lot of other stories like that. They're interesting, but they all confirm that the soul lives on forever. Our personalities continue. Our relationships continue. Loving relationships continue forever. And so the connections we make with those whom we love will just increase our oneness together and our experience of life.
Would you say that on the other side, we get to live with our loved ones who have passed? We're not going to lose them. We'll be with them for eternity?
We all go to the other side. We don't all go to the same level. Sometimes souls are more advanced than others. Those that are more advanced can come down to visit with those that are less advanced, but those that are less advanced can't go up. In this life and over other lifetimes, we develop the vibration of our soul. It depends on how much love we have. How well have we learned the lesson to become unconditional love? And the more we learn to be unconditional love, the higher our vibration. And we go to that level. And we continue growing and have other opportunities, whether on earth or elsewhere, to improve our vibration. So it's really important to keep positive, to keep loving, to help others when the opportunity arises. And all in all, we'll all be connected, but we might be separated by different realms. I forgot the name of the movie. It may come to me, but our group saw it. It had to do with uh, the the city in heaven. That wasn't the title, but it was a portrayal of people who died and how they were welcomed in the other realm and what they did when they got to the other realm. And it talked about rehabilitations that they took place, clinics and wards, nursing wards, where people healed from their traumas while they were on Earth. And people learned a lot there. It's a good movie to see. I can't remember the title of it.
If you remember, let me know because I'd love to watch that movie. It sounds very interesting.
I'll, I'll make a note.
You talked about creating here on Earth and how PMH Atwater was able to go to the other side in her near death experience and create with her mind whole neighborhoods. And then we can create here on Earth, but it takes a little longer. Do we do it in the same way with our mind? How do we create here on Earth?
Well, I'd like to lead in a guided meditation, and maybe we can do that as part of this. I put this meditation together after studying some of the readings of Ray Stanford and Edgar Cayce. And this includes intention and thought and action and visualizing. And if you'd like to do this meditation with me, I invite you to do it. I want to tell you also, God accepts every prayer in whatever form there is. But I'm trying to define this as a prayer and a meditation as carefully as possible so that everybody will understand all the aspects of it. And I start by sitting up and putting my shoulders back. And this aligns my chakras. And whenever I do this, I can almost feel the energy coming down into me. But it's not just feeling it. I want to be intentional about it. So I raise my hands and I say, "Glory to God," putting over my head. That's my intention, that this experience will bring glory to God. And I welcome the energy of the love light into my being. And I put my hands facing my body, and it's almost like I'm guiding that energy into my head and into my neck and into my chest and abdomen, hips and legs, and down into my feet. I could put my palms down, and the energy is going down even into the earth and anchoring the light in my body. And I extend my arms, and I envision that the light is surrounding me and affecting all that is near me. And in this at one-ment, this moment of the here and now, all things exist. There's no distance. There's no separation of time. Everything exists in this one moment. And I'm present with God, the love light, in this one moment. And in the presence, I express my devotion to serve, to, to serve God, to love other people. And I express my devotion and gratitude and love because of all that God has given to me. The opportunity to be alive, to have a mind, to be creative, to love, to have relationships, to have lifetime experiences that caused my soul to grow. And as I am resting in the at one-ment with God, I can feel the energy of the light, love, filling me. And as it fills me, I can bring to mind anyone or any creative effort that I would like to see happen and surround that with the love light energy, knowing that this is creative. And so I take a minute to bring to mind my grandchildren, the people whom I love, the organizations I support, the people who have asked for help. And I commit them all to the will of God, who is able to do exceeding abundantly more than we can ask or think, in the name of the Christ. And I hold that visualization. Thank you, God. Amen. So that's something you can do on your own and express your own creative energies.
Oh, that was beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. I feel energized.
Me too.
There's a couple other things that I wanted to ask you about before we wrap it up. And one of those is the earth changes that you were talking about. Why do we have to go through these earth changes that seem so tumultuous and challenging?
I think all the explanations are in the long paper that I wrote. Briefly, planets have a lifespan. Um, our planet has a lifespan. Just as our physical bodies go through changes during our lifespan, so does the planet. Planet needs to cleanse itself. It needs to renew itself. Planet's receiving energy from galaxies and other realms, and it's in the process of renewing itself. It was going to be a good renewal. We're going to have a good future.
So it's all for our highest and best good, even though it may be a bumpy road to get there?
Yeah. Um, Jesus expressed it this way. A woman goes through childbirth. It's painful, but she's really happy when the child is born. We're going through that childbirth right now. It's going to be painful, but it's going to be good.
Yeah, I like that. And then once you have a child, you forget about the pain. Otherwise, you would never have another child again. But it's strange how your mind works and you forget all about it. So that's a good analogy. What is your take on reincarnation? Do we come back to this planet to continue learning lessons, or do we go to other places, or do we just go to heaven and keep accelerating our learning there on that realm?
Wow, that's great. I'd love to answer that. Dr. Michael Newton gave us a good picture of how an incarnation takes place in his books. And a soul resting in the spiritual realm might want to stay there forever, or might want to make a change. And when they want to make a change, they can consult with guides, other evolved souls, to see what their soul needs in its growth. And options will be given. And when an option is chosen, what would you like to work on this lifetime? Then you work together with your guides and helpers to put together an earth body and an earth mind. And you take components from other lifetimes or other previous, the lifetimes of other people even, and you fabricate your own vehicle, especially a mind that will give you the strengths to develop and achieve the goals that you set. And then when the time is right, you'll find parents and you'll choose your parents and you'll come to earth and you'll live out that lifetime. You'll set some mile markers where you might transition at any one of those mile markers if you choose at that time. But it's encouraged that you complete that lifetime and fulfill the mission that you have. Rob Schwartz wrote a book about life's challenges. And he said a man was born in the 1960s and he had chosen to come there as a homosexual because his life goal were two. He wanted to make a change in society for those that weren't accepting homosexual men, and he also wanted to learn self-acceptance. And so he'd go through a very difficult time being rejected by others, but in the end, he would learn self-acceptance. So that was an example of what he learned in that lifetime and how he planned it, and he lived it out. We might go to Earth, or we might go to any number of other places, other planets, non-physical realms or physical realms. Quantum healing hypnosis technique talks a lot about this. It's a recent development in exploring consciousness. Sarah Breskman Cosme has written 3 books about exploring the universe and exploring the past of the earth. And she includes a lot of this information in her books. So I believe in reincarnation. It's not this same Dick Dingus that will come back, but it's what will happen is when I transition, I will be downloaded. I can still retain my personal identity, but I will also merge with universal consciousness if I choose to do that. And when I choose to come back, I can refabricate or reinvent what I want to experience, the vehicle in which I want to experience life for learning. So it's flexible. Just about anything is possible.
I like that. And are you afraid to die?
No, I'm healthy and I'm happy. I'm busy. I've got a lot of strength. I'm 79 years old. I think I'd like to have a trust. I haven't written a will or a trust. I think I need to do that sometime in the near future or maybe the distant future because I don't plan on dying for another 20 or 30 years.
I think that you're doing so much good in this world that we need you to stick around to continue that work.
I plan to be here. Um, Chet Snow took the readings of Helen Wambach, who did past life regressions and future life regressions. And he wrote them all up into a book called Mass Dreams of the Future. And what he saw was that people on Earth were living in spiritual colonies. Some people on Earth were living in cities and they were scurrying around like rats looking for food. Other people were living on spaceships, orbiting the Earth. Anyway, it's a fascinating study. Uh, I'm planning to remain on Earth and help with the rebuilding after the turbulence is over. I have a love for organic gardening, and I've planned for sharing this with others when the time is needed. It's that's my plan.
Well, we need you for that, for sure. Thank you. And if you had one message you wanted to leave with the viewers today to kind of summarize all of your experiences, I know that's difficult. There's so much wisdom, so much knowledge. But if you had one message you wanted the audience to take away from this, what would it be?
Uh, Connect with Source, express your devotion to Source, and be available to extend that love to someone else as guidance gives.
I love that. Thank you so much for being my guest. This has been an honor for me.
Thank you, Tia. Me too. I enjoyed it.
Thank you for being here. I just want to tell you how much I appreciate you being here and supporting my channel. If you haven't already subscribed, please consider subscribing if you enjoy near-death experiences and other spiritually transformative stories. It helps the algorithm know that this information is useful and push it out to more people. And that's the goal, to get as many people to know that we are eternal spiritual beings and that we never die. Our bodies might die, but our essence will never die. And I want people to live with less fear. Let's all spread the word. Like, comment, subscribe, share, hit that little notification bell so you get all the notifications when my videos post. Thank you for all of your support. I'm sending love to you.